Luna discovered that Marcus was traveling. While she waited for Mercury retrograde to pass for him to start talking to her again. 3 weeks sending positive energies to the universe, consulting charts, believing that the planets explained why he had disappeared. Until she saw the beach photos on his social media. Smiling, relaxed, clearly not going through any cosmic crisis. That's when Luna asked herself, was she really following the stars? Or using them as an excuse to accept crumbs? Did other women also use spirituality to justify men who didn't choose them? And more importantly, how to stop looking in the stars for explanations for behaviors that are simply lack of love? Why is it easier to blame Mercury retrograde than to admit he simply doesn't care? Tell us in the comments. Have you also used astrology to justify bad behaviors from someone? We want to know. Let's discover together how Luna learned that the stars are not an excuse for lack of self-love. Luna was 32 years old and had an intimate relationship with the cosmos. She knew her birth chart by heart. Sun in Pisces, Moon in Cancer, Ascendant in Virgo, and consulted planetary transits before making any important decision. When she met Marcus at a friend's party, the first thing she did was ask for his birth date, time and place. To make our synastry chart, she explained, smiling. Marcus found it strange but charming. Their chart was promising. His sun in Gemini making a trine with her moon, Venus in harmonious aspects, Mars activating the relationship house. We're very compatible, Luna said, showing the graphics on her phone. The stars are conspiring in our favor. For Luna, that was better than any conversation about values or life goals. If the cosmos approved, who was she to question? Do we confuse signs from the universe with excuses to not use common sense? In the beginning, Luna interpreted every behavior from Marcus through astrological lenses. When he took time to respond to messages, she consulted the transits. Mercury is in tense aspects with Saturn. That's why communication is difficult. When he cancelled meetings at the last minute, she checked the moon's position. Waning moon always makes people more introspective. When he went days without giving news, Luna had the perfect explanation. Mercury retrograde always messes up communication. It's normal. Marcus quickly realized that Luna accepted any behavior as long as it had a cosmic justification. It was like having a free pass to be irresponsible, as long as there was a planet to blame. And he began to use this consciously. Sorry for disappearing. You know how I get when Mercury is retrograde, became the magic phrase that erased any question or demand. Why do we accept excuses that not even we would believe, if they came from someone else? Luna began to live according to Marcus's astrological calendar. She studied his transits like someone studying the mood of a temperamental boss, always trying to predict when he would be emotionally available. Today Mars is making opposition to his sun. Better not demand anything, she thought when she wanted to complain about something. New moon in his 7th house, must be a good day to talk about relationships, she decided when planning important conversations. She adapted to his cosmic cycles as if she were a personal secretary to the planets. And when Marcus didn't meet expectations, even with favorable stars, Luna found even more elaborate explanations. Must be some minor transit I didn't see. Or maybe it's a reflection of past retrograde energy. Astrology, which should be a tool for self-knowledge, had become a crutch to accept crumbs. When do we become specialists at justifying, instead of questioning? Luna also used astrology to constantly diminish herself. My moon in Cancer is too intense for his sun in Gemini, she said when Marcus complained that she was clingy. It's normal for him to need space. Aquarius in his Mars shows that. She consoled herself when he spent entire weekends without talking to her. My Venus in Aries must be being too direct. I need to be more subtle, she thought when he ignored her requests for more attention. Luna had transformed her own birth chart into a list of flaws to be controlled. Each difficult aspect became an excuse to accept less love, less consideration, less presence. It was as if the stars had decreed that she didn't deserve to be treated well, and she accepted this cosmic sentence without questioning. Why do we use self-knowledge? To convince ourselves we deserve less. Luna's friends began to notice the pattern. He treats you badly, and you always have an astrological explanation, said Clara, the most direct friend. Have you ever thought that maybe he's just a jerk, regardless of his sign? But Luna defended Marcus with spiritual fervor. You don't understand astrology, Clara. He has Pluto in difficult aspects in the 7th house. Relationships are a karmic challenge for him. It was easier to believe she was living a cosmic lesson than to admit she was accepting being treated as an option. Luna had created a romantic narrative around suffering. They were twin souls going through spiritual tests, and she needed to be understanding with his astrological difficulties. What was actually a sophisticated way of accepting disrespect and calling it spiritual growth? How do we romanticize our own suffering and call it evolution? The turning point came during a particularly intense Mercury retrograde period. Luna had warned Marcus about the dates, explained how their energy could affect communication, suggested they have more patience with each other. 3 weeks might seem like a lot, but it's an opportunity for growth, she said, like a spiritual teacher. Marcus smiled and agreed. In the first week, he responded to messages with delay and Luna accepted. Mercury retrograde normal. In the second week, he cancelled 2 meetings in a row and she understood. The energy is really heavy. In the third week, Marcus simply disappeared. He didn't respond to messages, didn't answer calls, didn't give explanations. Luna consulted 3 different astrologers, bought an online course about relationships and astrology, made hourly charts asking where he was. All the stars pointed to necessary reflection period. Luna waited, justified, sent positive energies to the universe. And it was in the middle of this third week, while checking Instagram for the 10th time that day, looking for signs of life from him, that she saw. Marcus had posted stories. Photos of a paradisiac beach, colorful drinks, wide smile. He was traveling. Relaxed, happy. Clearly not going through any cosmic crisis or necessary reflection period. How many times do we look for answers in the stars to avoid facing the truth that's in front of us? Luna felt like she had been punched in the stomach. There he was, posting about incredible vibes and renewed energy, while she spent sleepless nights consulting astrological charts, blaming herself for having incompatible energies with the cosmic moment. There was no astrological explanation for that. He wasn't in crisis, wasn't reflecting, wasn't being affected by Mercury retrograde. He had simply chosen to leave her life and have fun, while she looked for justifications in the sky for something that was very simple and earthly. He didn't care enough. Luna sat on the bed, looking at the photos that repeated in his stories, feeling a mixture of humiliation and clarity. How many times had she done this? How many times had she looked for cosmic explanations for behaviors that were, in fact, just disinterest? Is sometimes the simplest answer, the truest one. If you have also used astrology to accept less than you deserve, if you've looked in the stars for justifications for bad behaviors, subscribe to the channel for more stories about emotional responsibility and self-love. Leave your like before we continue. Luna tried one last astrological move. Even with the travel photos burning in her memory, she scheduled a consultation with a famous astrologer, the one everyone followed on Instagram. She brought the charts, told the story, omitting the photos part, focusing only on the disappearance during Mercury retrograde, and waited for the cosmic revelation that would explain everything. The astrologer analyzed the graphics for a few minutes and then said something Luna didn't expect. Dear, sometimes a man who disappears during Mercury retrograde isn't going through a spiritual crisis. He just doesn't want to be with you. The words were like a cold shower. But the aspects, Luna began. Aspects show potentials, the astrologer interrupted. But choices are human, and he chose not to give you explanations. That has nothing to do with Mercury retrograde. Luna left the consultation carrying more than astrological charts. She carried the truth she already knew, but had refused to accept. How do we know when we stopped seeking guidance and started seeking excuses? It was then that Luna began to see the entire relationship with different eyes. Every time Marcus had disappeared, there was the perfect planetary excuse. Every time he had been evasive, Luna found the ideal astrological justification. Every time she had felt mistreated, she consulted the transits until she found an explanation that made her accept. Luna realized she had used astrology as a sophisticated form of self-sabotage. Instead of trusting her own instincts, she looked for cosmic validation to accept crumbs. Instead of demanding emotional responsibility, she blamed distant planets. She had transformed a tool for self-knowledge into a machine for producing excuses for someone who didn't deserve even one. When do we realize we were using wisdom to escape our own strength? Luna decided to try something revolutionary. Live without consulting the stars for a few weeks. At first, she felt lost, as if she were navigating without a compass. But gradually, she began to trust her own sensations, her own instincts. When someone treated her badly, instead of looking for astrological explanations, she simply recognized, this isn't right. When she felt like demanding attention, instead of waiting for the moon to be favorable, she simply demanded. It was scary, but also liberating. Luna discovered she had an intuition much more precise than any planetary transit, that her feelings were valid regardless of Saturn's position, that she deserved respect even when Mercury was retrograde. Is true intuition from within, not from the stars? Months later, Luna encountered Marcus at a party. He came to greet her as if they were old friends, without any embarrassment. Luna, how are you? Sorry for disappearing that time. You know how I get when Mercury is retrograde, he said, using the old magic formula. But this time, Luna looked at him with clear eyes. Marcus, she said calmly, Mercury retrograde is not an excuse for lack of manners. He was disconcerted, clearly not expecting that response. What do you mean? Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year. If it were because of that, no one would be able to maintain healthy relationships. Luna smiled, but it wasn't an angry smile. It was the smile of someone who finally understood the game. You disappeared because you wanted to, and I accepted because I was afraid to demand what I deserve. Marcus tried to argue, talk about energies and cosmic cycles, but Luna had already walked away. How do we learn that emotional responsibility doesn't depend on the position of planets? Luna went back to using astrology, but in a completely different way. Now, she used it to know herself better, to understand her patterns, to grow, but never again to justify bad behaviors from other people. Never again to accept crumbs disguised as karmic lessons. Never again to escape her own inner strength. She began dating again, but now with earthly criteria: respect, consideration, presence. If someone treated her badly, it didn't matter what his sign was. What mattered was if he had character. If someone disappeared without explanation, it didn't matter if Mercury was retrograde. What mattered was if he had emotional responsibility. Luna learned that the universe conspires in favor of those who love themselves enough to not accept less than they deserve. Does the universe conspire when we stop conspiring against ourselves? Luna discovered that the most powerful astrology is the one that teaches us to honor our own feelings. That shows us our gifts and challenges, but never tells us to accept disrespect. That connects us with the cosmos, but keeps our feet on the ground of dignity. At 33 years old, Luna finally understood that she didn't need aligned planets to deserve true love. That Mercury could go retrograde as many times as it wanted. That would never be an excuse for someone not to choose her clearly, not to treat her with respect, not to love her with presence. The stars can guide the path, but who decides where to walk is us. And Luna had decided to walk only on paths where she was welcome, respected and loved, regardless of any planet's position. If you recognized yourself in Luna, if you have also used spirituality to accept crumbs, tell us in the comments. Your story can help someone stop looking for excuses in the stars.